Oh, excuse the dogs.
No worries.
Hey guys, this is Gloria Ward, and welcome to another self love conversation. I'm so glad that you guys are going to join us tonight. What we're going to do is we're going to do one of our Girls Leap sessions. And you know, Girls Leap stands for Girls Learn, Earn, Advance, and Profit. And I have an amazing woman here, which I'm going to read her bio, and then we're going to get into how you actually can achieve your dreams and how you can do that if you feel like you are facing some type of adversity, how you get through that and really start to walk in your destiny and what you really want to do, especially in these troubled times. So I want everybody to meet Miss Charell Starr. Miss Charell, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Gloria.
Yes, and so let me read some of your bio. So Charell Starr is the Director of Content and Innovation at Essence Global, an online journalist at thestarlife.com and akc.tv, and a contributor and featured lifestyle, tech, and fashion expert for on-air segments. And as a former foster care youth and now advocate, Charell is appointed board member of CASA. Is that correct?
That is correct.
CASA
NYC.
NYC
Yes.
and City Living New York. And Charell is well versed in storytelling, marketing, and fashion and technology and innovation. And Charell speaks to empower other women to advocate for themselves in negotiations, business, to tell their unique stories, and audiences to embrace their past and propel their future. Charell, thank you so much for being here. You are exactly the type of women that we would love to talk to because I am so interested in your story. So thank you so much.
Oh, again, thank you so much for having me. Oh, my goodness.
Yes, so let's start from the beginning because your story, even reading your bio, is fascinating. But I want to go back to the journey where you say that you grew up in foster care. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And so just tell me a little bit about what that was like and what was your journey while you were growing up?
Yeah. So, I grew up in foster care and spent a lot of my youth in foster care. And so it was hard. There's no easy way to put it. I was physically abused. I was sexually abused. It was a hard sort of upbringing to overcome. But I always loved school. I loved everything about school. I loved being praised. I loved, being challenged. And so school really was my outlet to sort of survive and sort of overcome. And so, I ended up getting a scholarship to go to a boarding school for high school. And then I ended up going to college and getting a scholarship for that as well. And I ended up going to London to live there and study abroad. So it was always through school that I was able to take that next step and just stay focused. And so, again, foster care was hard. It was difficult. I sometimes look back and just am amazed that I made my way through. But there was always just something pushing me and saying, just keep studying, just keep moving forward. Just keep focused on the future and don't worry about the now. You got to just focus on the future. And that's what really helped me get through.
And what was your feeling back then? Did you always think that you was going to come out because you were in school? And let me tell you why I asked this question.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are a lot of women who grew up in foster care, and now that they are older, they're stuck.
Yes.
They can't get over, and I won't say like get over, they can't get past what happened back then.
Mm-hmm.
And you're a person who used what they had to go ahead and break out of that so that you can have the kind of career in the future that you wanted. So what was that point in which you said that this was my path in order for me to get out? And what was it that let you refuse to be stuck? I guess that's my better question.
I think what it was for me, and what I want to say first is, those women who are stuck, who can't seem to get past it, you never get past it. It never goes away.
Right.
But you learn to not let it hold you back. You learn to still live your dreams and still go after things you want, even with that. And so I want to say, it's not, you don't drop that bag one day. The pain doesn't go away, but you learn that, you know what, I'm not going to let this keep me from living my life. But for me, specifically, when I'm thinking back on what was that moment or what was the impetus, it was really just knowing that my situation wasn't right. And I laugh about this even, with my friends to this day, when I'm talking to other foster care youth, when I do my advocacy talks around the country. There was something in me that said, this situation is wrong. That the adults around me should not be acting this way, that I shouldn't have to be the adult in the room at 6, 7, 8 years old. And so I always knew that. And because I had this awareness that it was wrong, and which really came from what I will totally honest about, I lived with my great grandmother first. And so I had a foundation just in love, and the fact that she had surrounded me with so much love. I knew what a strong, safe home felt like. And so by the time I was in foster care, and I was really little when I first went to foster care, if the first time I was in care, if I was 3 or 4, I mean, I was very young, but I knew this don't feel right. This situation is not right. And so I always had that comparison. And sometimes people don't have the comparison to sort of weigh their current situation. And so you assume that what you're going through is right. You assume that what you're experiencing is what everyone experiences.
Right.
And so it takes a long time, and a lot of sort of acceptance and reflection to realize this is not right. This is not what should have been your life and your upbringing, and that you were shortchanged with your experience, but you don't have to continue doing that. You don't have to continue feeling that. And what I would say is, as I started telling my story, as I got more comfortable going to therapy and seeking out therapy myself, it became a lot easier for me to move past it, to feel comfortable sharing my story, to become an advocate for other people, other women out there, especially other young women who need an advocate, who need someone to be their voice. And so what I would say is, you have to be okay with saying to yourself that the way I grew up wasn't normal. It wasn't right. It was not my fault.
Right.
But you also have to be willing to go get the help you need, go talk to the people you need, go to therapy, and sort of do that work so that you can move forward.
Okay. And so what is the fear with telling the story? Because I hear a lot of women in our groups and when we do our workshops, they say, I really never wanted to talk about it. One, because I was, always taught that you don't.
Yep. What happens in the house stays in the house.
Exactly.
Yep.
And then the second one is that, I was embarrassed.
Yep. Yes. 100%. I have
Really?
felt, I've heard those things. I have
Mm-hmm.
felt those things. Don't ever tell anyone what goes on in this house.
Yep.
I have heard those things and I have felt those things. I've been embarrassed. It took me a long time to become very comfortable. And just, a quick sort of side story, when I got my first corporate job, I made the, quote unquote mistake of telling my boss that I had been in foster care, and her entire demeanor towards me changed. Like from that moment, I saw it in her face, like
Wow.
everything, like literally I saw in her face, like everything she thought about me, because, I had gone to boarding school and I had graduated
Right.
from college, and like all the things that she had wrapped up in her head about who I was and what I was going to accomplish changed in that moment. And I could see the trust just fade away because I had told her that I was in foster care. And because so many people equate foster care with being a juvenile delinquent. They equate
Really?
foster care with, a child who's done something wrong, when those two things, that could not be further from the truth. People end up in foster care, youth end up in foster care because bad things either happen to them or around them, not because they have done anything wrong themselves. And so that experience made me not talk about it for a long time. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to be in these corporate environments and have people judge me. I felt shame. And so it took a lot of me moving up in my career where I felt secure enough for me to tell my story and not have to worry about what other people think. I felt so comfortable in the level I had achieved, in my work product and what I was able to deliver. And the fact that people, wanted me working on their projects, that I didn't have to worry about, should I feel ashamed? Should I worry about if they're going to judge me? So it took a lot to get to that. But I understand it's very scary to share your story. It's very terrifying to admit that you are other, that you grew up without a home or grew up without a stable situation, that you or your family had issues, and that they impacted you. It's very scary to have those conversations with people because you don't know how they're going to take them. You don't know how if they're going to accept you for who you are. But all I could say to other women is the longer you keep your story to yourself, the longer you're allowing other youth who are currently in the system to go through the same sort of experience that you're experiencing right now, that fear of sharing their story. The more of us that are out there talking about it, sharing our story, the more we break down these walls and we make it easier for this next generation to get out there and do the things that they need to do, do the things that they want to do. Keeping it aside helps no one.
Absolutely. And I tell them, the world is waiting on you. That person that needs you and your advice and everything, they're waiting for you to get past your fear in order to tell them how to move to the next level.
If your story helps one person, that's all we can do in this world. If we can help one person, you've changed someone's destiny. Like, you've lived your purpose. And so share your story, exactly what you're saying.
Absolutely. So you go to school, you're excelling in your career, you get your corporate job. What was that like?
So, it's interesting because, I got my first corporate job and, okay, I've made it. I'm the first one in my family to graduate from college. Yeah. I live on my own in New York City. And it's like, okay, great. So right. There was no ticker tape parade. There was like, I had bills to pay, like, rent was due. Exactly. Like,
you got to pay every day.
It's like, exactly. It's like, oh, I didn't realize the rainbow was just bills. Like, I didn't as the pot of the gold is me actually having to pay out the gold.
Exactly.
But what I will say is, it was less the position and more what it offered me. It offered me the ability to travel more. It offered me the ability to spend time with the people I care about. It offered me the ability to invest in my time and, helping the communities that I really wanted to help and focus in on, and especially the foster youth community. And so, getting that corporate job and sort of making my way in corporate America has really allowed me to double down on that passion and help other youth who are growing up in similar situations to mine, and hands down 100% worse situations than mine. And so I am very thankful for that. But that's what really sort of taking that step and sort of getting to that next level has allowed me to do.
Okay. And so now that you're in corporate America and you're moving up the ladder in corporate America, what are some of the challenges that you face as a woman being in that space? Because, we get a lot of our women who are in our business program that says, you know what, I'm at my job and I don't feel appreciated. That's the number one thing that we get all the time, that I don't feel appreciated. Like, I do more and I work harder. And we brought somebody in that said, hard workers work hard and networkers move up. You got to be able to expand your skills. So what is your take on that? When being a woman in corporate America, what are some of the challenges that you face and how do you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, I would say, I always say, it's something my great grandmother said, and I remember her saying it, you have 3 strikes against you. You're a woman.
Yep.
You're Black.
Yep.
And you're poor. And so, knowing all of that and coming up with that in my head, you got to work twice as hard. We all know that.
Yep.
It's true. It's what I've experienced in corporate America as well, especially early on, especially in those first couple of jobs jobs, roles, and companies. And I myself had to learn how to navigate, how to network, how to find a mentor, how to strategize in order to move up in the company, because working twice as hard is not going to get you very far. Like, I know that's the story we're all told. If you work twice as hard, you'll be recognized and you'll be moved up. That is not true. That is just not true. I don't care how much you lean in. It is not true. You have to be willing to not only work hard, to toot your own horn, be okay with saying, here's what I bring to the table. Here are the accomplishments I did this week or last week. Here's what I be prepared to talk about all of your accomplishments when you go and do your reviews. Actually seek out those people at higher levels who can help you strategize and move forward and maybe jump a ring or two, so that you don't just get stuck, because
But
they're not.
Charell, that means that we're putting ourselves out there, like we're
Yep.
becoming snooty, like we are, and hear me, it's like, we're tooting our own horn out there, where we
Uh-huh.
believe that we're better than everyone, and
Uh-huh.
we don't want to do that, because if we do that, then people won't like us, or we would feel like we have to buy donuts every day to get people to like us. You know what
Right,
I'm
right.
saying?
Yeah. I mean,
That's
this
what
is
you
all,
hear.
yes, the people, they won't like me. They don't need to like you. They need to pay you.
That's right. Say that again.
They
Say that
don't need to like
again.
you. They need to pay you.
Exactly.
That is your girl. It is work. It is
Yeah,
work. And if it's fun, that is a bonus. I am very
absolutely.
blessed in that I love my job, and that
Yep.
is a bonus.
Yep.
But first and foremost, you go to work to be paid. So all that other stuff, push it to the side. Now, I'm not saying go in and be mean to everyone
Right.
and go tell Karen what you think of her. No, that's not what I'm
Right.
saying.
Right.
But I am saying that it is okay to talk about your accomplishments. It is okay not to defer to someone else at the table, especially someone at your level at
Right.
the table, and let them, say the idea that was on the tip of your tongue.
Mhm.
You deserve to have a seat at the table. You deserve to pull up a chair and be able to speak at that table. And you should not feel ashamed or embarrassed or hesitant or worried about how people are going to perceive you. Again, that does not mean that you don't have to be strategic, because there are implied biases, there are unimplied biases
The angry
that we
black
as
woman syndrome.
exactly
Yep.
that you need to be aware of and that you need to know how to navigate. But again, if you go through and you sort of make those connections with those mentors, with those higher ups, if you are strategic in sort of networking, I guarantee those problems of the angry black woman, it's going to be harder for people to come at you with that, because you're going to have a little protection from the top. And so you can be just the normal average woman in there who is demanding excellence from your team members, from your coworkers, without being labeled as the angry black woman. So I think highly that women, especially black women, should be very strategic, should make those connections, and not be afraid to toot their own horn, especially at work. And don't worry about people who, might feel that you're being braggadocious, that you are tooting
Mhm.
your own horn too much, because you know what? If you did the work and it is your accomplishment, why shouldn't you speak about it? Who else is going to speak about it if you don't?
That's exactly what I tell them. I'm like, if you're in a situation where you have to advocate for yourself, then why won't you do that? Why won't
Mm-hmm.
you, sit there and let someone tell you what they think about you, and you're not doing, the talking for yourself.
Exactly.
And they would say, Gloria, oh, you've been a business owner too long, you just don't know. I said, well, I have to network and advocate for myself every day,
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
in
Exactly.
order to stay. Because I
Exactly.
told them, if anything goes down, like what we have with COVID-19, which we're going to get into, the
Mm-hmm.
first people who are let go are the consultants, and then
Mm-hmm.
you move down to everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be able to continuously advocate for yourself, and not feel bad about it.
Yep.
But what we do is we shrink ourselves, because we feel like we don't want to cause a bother or anything like that,
Right.
where it takes away that whole shine and everything that we want, especially if we're trying to get somewhere and go somewhere. But I like what
Exactly.
you said. You got to know who you are.
Yes.
That's the
It's
most important thing. Can you talk about self-love and how important it is in corporate America for a woman to have self-love in order for them to achieve the goals that they are trying to achieve?
It is so important. You have got to have self-love. You have got to know your self-worth. You've got to be your own and loudest promoter every single day. And I am a big proponent of this. It's something I practice daily. You should see, I have a floor length mirror in my room, and I have a little decal that says, "You are going to be amazing today," stuck to that mirror. And I look at that every single day as I'm getting dressed. Like, I surround myself with positivity. I'm cheering myself up, cheering for myself every single day. When I do something right, I say it to myself, "Man, girl, you did the thing." Like, I am always cheering for me. You have got to do that it is too hard out there. You cannot wait for someone else to cheer you on. If you do, you're going to be waiting for your entire life. Like, you need to be your biggest champion. You need to be your loudest supporter. Don't let anyone else talk you out of that. And that's not to say that I don't make mistakes. Of course I make mistakes, but I'm also going to be very forgiving of my mistakes. I'm going to use those mistakes as and look at them as opportunities to learn and for me to be better. But I am never going to allow someone to tear me down. It is fine for you to tell me I made a mistake, but I'm not going to let you tear me down. I'm like, look, I made a mistake. I'll be the first one to admit when I make a mistake. But hey, it was a mistake. That is not a reflection on every other thing that I've brought to the table thus far, and it will not be a reflection of the things that I bring to the table in the future. This is a learning experience. So you have to be your own champion.
I'll tell you something. So where I consult, there is another IT guy there, right? And it's just so funny. He is literally doing stuff to Sabotage, right? And so I had to go to him probably 2 weeks ago again. And I said, hey, you know, I've been a business owner for 17 years. I don't want your job, right? But the only reason why I am here is because you don't do yours. That's the only reason. That's the only reason why I'm here, because you don't do yours. Now, the only way you can get rid of me is if you step up and you start doing your job, and they feel like that, you know, there is no need for me anymore. But until then, this is what it's going to be.
And you need to be doing what you need to do, because there's going to become a day when they're going to be like, why are we paying him and the consultant?
Charell, we got to that point where we got into a meeting and he said, you know, they was like, well, we're going to go ahead and give Gloria this project and her team to work on this piece, which is the telehealth piece for the COVID-19, right? And so he busts out, oh, I mean, you know, she barely knows what she's doing. She doesn't know our business like that. And she doesn't know this and she doesn't know that, right? And so I stay quiet because I was just saying to myself,
let him show his tail.
Exactly. I was like, let him go ahead and speak. And so the CEO said exactly what I said. Well, if she didn't know and you knew, then she wouldn't be here. But because you don't know, that's why she's here. And I just looked and I just wrote down in my notes. And, you know, so now we're having this thing where, you know, I'm the lead person on that project and he's in his office all day just twiddling his fingers, but he's trying to interject himself. And, you know, I just said to myself, I said, you know, I'm not in corporate America. I'm usually working by myself, but I can kind of tell what it's like. You know, when it comes to people, you know, trying to keep their jobs and doing whatever they can to, you know, really sabotage you. So that's what I tell the women. I said, if you're the one sabotaging yourself,
like, what chance do you have?
Because everybody else out in the world is going to do it for you.
Yes, exactly.
You cannot be the one that's sabotaging yourself. There are going to be too many people out in the world that's already going to do that.
They are already gunning for you. Why you talk yourself up? You pump yourself up. You
Absolutely.
got this.
Absolutely. And I thought it was just so funny. So actually tell us what you do. And I know you said storytelling and director of content and innovation at Essence Global. Tell us what that is.
So what that is essentially at Essence Global, Essence is an advertising agency, international, but essentially my role specifically, Director of Content Innovation, is if you think about product placement in TV or online, so if you see a product, a Coke bottle or something along those lines, I don't work for Coke, I'm just using that as an example, but you see a Coke bottle in a TV show, or you see it in a commercial, or if you see a native article on like Pop Sugar, Refinery 29, and it's talking about, you know, all the products you can find in a particular retailer, and it's sponsored. Those are the type of things I do. So really figuring out really creative and fun ways to tell stories about brands, but in really authentic spaces and really authentic ways that really
Uh,
will resonate with readers or viewers or listeners, if it's a podcast or audio series or something along those lines. And so that's what I get to do every day as my day job, which is the fun stuff, really
yeah,
sort
that's
of figure out
amazing.
how to tell brand stories in
Yeah.
very creative ways. But then I also tell stories in sort of my side hustle or my side gigs as well, because I do lifestyle. I'm a lifestyle expert on TV and for
Okay.
digital networks. So I talk about the latest trends in fashion for on NBC New York Live, and I talk about the latest tech trends for Good Day New York, or I'll talk about the latest pet trends. So literally pet trends for dogs or dog parents or dog owners for AKC TV, which is American Kennel Club Television. So I
Wow.
get to be on both sides of the camera. For my day job, I'm behind the camera
Yeah.
and sort of like selling in ideas. And for my side hustle and side business and my side passion, it's me in front of the camera, sort of figuring out how to pull the stories together.
Wow. Now that is amazing. So you're
Yeah,
constantly thinking of ways on how to be creative. How can we get this brand out there?
exactly.
How can we get people to actually look at this and see this? That is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, exactly. It's fun. I tell everyone I love my job. I have the fun part of my job. Whenever I go to my office, and people, that they're having a bad day and they're like, how are you feeling? I'm like, I'm feeling great. I love what I
Right.
do.
Exactly. So how has COVID-19 affected your business and even for yourself?
So I would say the business as a whole, it's a scary time out here with
Mhm.
COVID-19. I mean, we've never been in a situation quite like this.
Right.
The closest thing might have been September 11th,
Yeah.
when things just sort of blacked out. But I'm in the advertising agency, and so I haven't seen a real pullback yet as far as advertisers, which has been really good. But
Good.
that can change quickly. I'm not sure if your listeners sort of know what the production cycle looks like, but basically any show anywhere is not shooting right now. So there is no
Yeah.
production happening. So when you think of
No.
something like the fall season, when all the new shows and all the new series and new episodes come
Yeah.
out, that is filmed now, and that is not happening. So we're going to see some long-term impact, definitely from what's taking place. But right now, the industry is okay,
Mhm.
but we're all trying to scramble and figure out what does Q3 and Q4 look like the rest of the year, because things that should be filming now are not filming. And so when I say filming, like new
Yeah.
shows, new series, all the things we buy advertisement around
Yeah.
is not happening right now. And so it's a scary time, but again, haven't been directly, I won't say I haven't been directly impacted because that's not true, but I will
Mhm.
say the industry that I happen to be in hasn't been hit as hard yet.
Right.
But we'll be monitoring it over the next couple of weeks, obviously, and months to see if there's any change in that. And unfortunately, I'll have to go with the flow, depending on what
Yeah.
happens.
How do you
Um,
think this is going to change us as we go on? Once we try to figure out what this virus is, because I tell my group, I said, you know, if you think about it and you look at history, you have it where your employer is restructuring. You got to
mhm,
be able to sustain. They're losing money, you're
mhm,
at home,
mhm.
and who's to say that if you want to come back to your job, everybody got to take a COVID-19 vaccine, where we
Mhm.
don't know what the vaccine is going to do to your body or anything like that. So like, where do you see like this going? And do you see like if there's going to be any opportunities or things coming out of this?
Mhm. So, I would say, I'm not a medical professional, so
No,
I
right,
just don't want to weigh in
right,
on like the actual medical.
right,
But what I will say is, I think as far as a potential, employee out in the world,
right.
I am watching companies right now and how they are treating their employees. I am watching because, companies that I might have been interested in maybe one day moving to or working for, I am looking at them and I am shaking my head at how they're treating their employees right now, because it is in these times that you really learn where your values are. You really
Abs-
learn and see where their values are, and you can see whether they align or not. So I would definitely and strongly advise everyone to be paying attention to those companies that maybe you thought you might want to work for, and you hear those big names all the time. Pay attention to how they are treating their employees right now. Are they helping them and ensuring that they have a good transition and are trying to stretch this out as long as possible, and maybe what are they doing? Are they just letting them go?
Correct.
Because we've seen over the 3.2 million people file for unemployment this month.
Absolutely.
And I think that number is severely undercounted, because I know for a fact there are people who could not even get on the websites
Wow.
to file. So I think, we're going to see more of this and more of a shock sort of happen. But I think definitely, I think how we look at companies in the future is going to be forever changed from this moment. I also think a lot of the industries that have been allowed to sort of flout the rules, so the gig economy,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
gig economy as an example of, like, it was sold to everyone as there was flexibility and you have more time to do the things you want, but there's no sort of safety net for
Absolutely.
people at all, and you have no health insurance. And so when things hit bottom, like we are seeing them hit right now, we've got all these people who are just stuck out on their own. I think there's going to be a real change. I hope there is I can't say, I hope there is a real change in how we approach the gig economy, to make sure that people aren't just left out on their own and
Right.
left on the front lines. We've got, in some cities and some towns, workers, Uber drivers being the only people who can take people to hospitals. And
Yes.
they are putting themselves at risk. We've got grocery workers
Absolutely.
who have to work through all of this because it's essential service. Yet some places don't want to give them health insurance. And
Exactly.
so I see a real awakening. I'm hoping there is a real awakening on how we all treat workers in this country, how we treat employees, and we place a higher value on the things that we say we care about.
Absolutely.
If we think that food is essential and that grocery stores should be open, we should make sure that everyone is covered. And if something goes wrong, like it is right now, that they don't ever have to worry about health insurance, that they know they're going to be taken care of. That's not what I don't feel that's what we do now.
Right. Absolutely. So how can we find you? How can we follow you? What do you have coming up? Let us know, because I think you are amazing. And let us know a little bit about your Casa NYC.
Yeah, so Casa NYC, City Living, these are two organizations. So Casa NYC is an organization that helps foster care youth who are still in care. And
Okay.
basically what they do is provide what you can consider a volunteer social worker, a volunteer advocate, to go speak and fight for the rights of foster youth and ensure that their needs are met. So they are this volunteer person who does not get paid a single red cent, and they go into the courtrooms to make sure that, what the child's voice is heard. They're the ones who, if they're having problems in school, will go into schools to make sure, a teacher knows that, well, this child has moved 4 times this year, so they might be a little behind. What work do you need to send home? Oh, no one's taking them to get their, this is actually a story that I had personally. Every year looking at my report card, you see the little note, Charell needs glasses. Charell can't see the board. No one ever took me to get glasses. I did not get reading glasses until I was in 7th grade. I could not see the board until 7th grade. So imagine how much further I might be in life.
Absolutely.
If I could have read the board
Oh,
in addition to just liking school.
yeah.
So these are the advocates that actually go and ensure that those needs are being met for kids who are moving around. I know foster youth who move around 30 times, in care, which is insane. It's
Right.
criminal. So that's what CASA does, and it's an amazing organization. And then City Living, New York, helps youth who've aged out of care and have moved into their first apartment. So they are solo, they've moved out, and they are young adults. But obviously, just because you've aged out of care does not mean that you're ready and able to live on your own. A lot of youth, they'll get maybe $800, maybe $1,200 from the city. Let me tell you, you can't afford an apartment.
No.
So we've got youth who are sleeping on the floor, no bed, no mattress, just nothing, and no pots, no pans. No one's ever taught them how to cook. And so City Living is providing all of those services and trying to help provide all those services for youth. And it's an incredible organization. It's actually started by a woman who does social work. She's a CASA worker and a social worker, and just saw this need of youth aging out on their own and like becoming homeless. Nationwide, up to 40% of foster care youth end up homeless within 3 years of aging out. So, there's so many problems that are wrapped into the foster care system. If you want to tackle homelessness, one of the key areas is ensuring that foster youth have a place to go after they age out. And so that's what City Living really, that's what their mission is, to help youth who've aged out of care and to remain in their home so that they can start working on those next level steps into becoming successful and becoming self-sustaining. And so I work with both of those organizations. So please, guys, go donate, go to the websites, donate. They're incredible organizations to help foster youth. But if you want to find out more about me or follow me, Instagram is always the best place at Charell Star. You can always find me there. I'm always trying to post inspirational content, although right now I'm finding it hard to come up with inspirational posts just because of the time we're living in, but I will get back to it. I'm feeling very reinvigorated after talking with you, Gloria. So I just feel like more content is coming, but you can always follow me online. And what I also say is, if you have any listeners who are former foster youth, they want to talk to someone, they just want to reach out, just reach out to me. You can find me online. Go to my if you can contact me through Instagram, slip into my DMs. I will answer any questions you want to know. I will definitely, I'm here to chat, so feel free to reach out to me.
Charell, thank you so much for being here. And please send us any events or fundraising things you might have for your organizations, and we'll definitely put it out there and support and get our group to support.
I appreciate that so much, Gloria. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, no problem. And we will talk soon, okay?
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
Bye.